welcome to this special broadcast from Moscow. You're watching World Today and I'm Geeta Mohan. This week we'll focus on the second big push by Russia into Ukraine and an exclusive conversation with Senator Andrei Klimov, who's made some startling revelation and claim regarding the Bucha massacre. After announcing the near-complete capture of Mariupol, Russian President Vladimir Putin is now focused and is eyeing on the second largest city of Ukraine, Kharkiv. But Ukraine is determined to fight back. My colleague Abhishek Bhalla with this exclusive ground report.
Vladimir Putin's mission Mariupol is complete. The Ukrainian port city is now in Russian control, the biggest victory yet for Putin's forces. The only resistance in Mariupol is this steel plant, where Ukrainians remain cooped up as Putin has ordered his troops not to breach or storm into the Azovstal plant, but to surround it from all directions. Ukraine's pleas to release their citizens from the Azovstal steel plant have so far fallen on deaf ears.
I consider the proposed storming of the industrial area pointless. I order to abort it. This is the case when we must think. That is, we must always think, but even more so in this case, about preserving the life and health of our soldiers and officers. There is no need to climb into these catacombs and crawl underground through these industrial facilities. Block off this industrial area so that not even a fly comes through. There is not a single building in Mariupol that has not been destroyed. For over a month, Russian soldiers kept the city under tight siege, not allowing even humanitarian corridors. Hundreds of thousands of residents remained there without food, water or medicines.
Nearly 60 days of this war, and President Putin scored a huge strategic win in the city of Mariupol. But what's next? Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv. That's right. Russia will be looking to secure two big cities in the east and thereby complete a successful operation in Ukraine. But Ukraine has made it clear that the country will continue its aggressive fight back.
This is an ambush that has been laid by the Ukrainian forces in one of the forested areas around the Kyiv region. Another soldier, we can see him using the rocket launcher in case there is an invasion.
Soldiers remain on guard 24/7 to hit back at any Russian assault, laying traps to ensure Putin's troops don't roll their massive tanks into Kharkiv.
We are at one of the forward posts of the Ukrainian forces, and this is where a lot of artillery shelling has been happening. They have been pounding these places for long, the Russian forces. These are the places where they take shelter in case there is an artillery attack, in case there is firing. Positions of the Ukrainian forces that is guarding the route up to Kharkiv, the main highway and the arterial roads that come towards Kharkiv from the Russian border are being guarded by this team here, and they are on guard 24/7. Such has been the situation around Kharkiv that the forces are expecting a massive invasion from the Russian side any time.
The Russian assault isn't slowing down, and the Mariupol victory will invigorate Putin's troops to go all out in the capture of Kharkiv next. With Abhishek Bhalla in Kharkiv, Bureau Report, India Today.
The infamous bombing of the drama theatre in Mariupol has become a symbol of the destruction a war can cause. I travelled to Mariupol and here's a ground report from the site which was once Ukraine's pride. Here in Mariupol, which is now under Russian and Donetsk People's Militia's control, there is no going back. The yellow and blue destroyed infrastructure will soon turn to different colors. Colors that will represent Russia, colors that would represent Donetsk. It is very clear that there is no intention of the Russian side to give up on territories and areas that are considered part of the Donbas region. Donetsk Regional Academic Drama Theatre, once a cultural hub, it had been converted into a bunker for children. And what we see over here is Diete, which means children, written in bold by the Ukrainians to ensure that the Russians do not bomb this theatre. Today, this theatre, this is the center of the theatre, which is turned to rubble. What you hear is only mangled metal beating against each other with the breeze and the wind that's blowing. There are reports of many having lost their lives, and the rubble has not been cleared because this city is under siege and still at war. But once the rubble is removed, we'll know exactly what the nature of the damage has been, not just to the property, but also to the lives of people. This is the basement where a lot of children were staying, a lot of families were staying, but that was not the only place. Because of the air raid, the bombing, there were many other areas of this theatre that was housing a lot of people. Here, there are little rooms, little corners everywhere people were staying. So it is very difficult to really assess exactly what is the loss of life. Here in the streets of Mariupol, an entire area now absolutely destroyed. If you can see the buildings and the roads, what is happening over here are two things that the authorities are now doing. One is the grads that were shot into Mariupol, those are being cleared out. And the shrapnels, the systems, the metal being removed from the road to clear the road for it to be pliable again. And the other thing that his team, the commander over here, his team is doing is further down the road, they're going to each and every house. If there are these grads that have landed in the houses, then they're removing them. But also, if the Ukrainians have mined the area, they're also looking at demining. So a lot of work happening in this stretch of the road, but the situation pretty bad even now. We were driving down this entire stretch. Their bodies that still are unclaimed and have not been picked up by anybody or the authorities even. Known as the breadbasket of Europe, Ukraine is one of the key providers of wheat, not just to Europe, but to many other countries. With this war, the question is not just about global security when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, but also about food security. Egypt is suffering heavily because of this war and has started looking at other countries, including India. But the fields over here in eastern Ukraine already have the wheat crop growing. Will it reach the countries that require it, or will it just sit here because of the conflict is the big question. The harvest season in Ukraine, eastern Ukraine, of which many parts are under Russian control, will see whether if they actually will be able to sell the wheat that they send to many parts of Europe. Farmers over here that we've traveled to have not left their fields, they've not left their land, they're still tilling their land. They hear, when we ask them why, they say they have nowhere else to go. This is home and this is their land. With duty journalist Satya Rautre in Mariupol, Geeta Mohan for India Today. Russia has made it clear that it is not going to give up captured territories from Ukraine, and it will focus its energies on the Eastern Front.
The biggest takeaway of the biggest war interview. After weeks of offensive bombardments and missile strikes, leaving Ukraine in ruins, its key cities on their knees, Kremlin is dramatically changing its strategy. For the very first time, Russia has explained what it intends to do next in its offensive in Ukraine, giving a rare glimpse into its military strategy, often guarded behind a strict Iron Curtain.
And this operation will continue. It is beginning, another stage of this operation is beginning, and I'm sure this will be a very important moment of this entire special operation.
And the news trickling in from India Today's Sergey Lavrov interview does not augur well for Ukraine. Lavrov also announced the beginning of the next stage of the special operation in Ukraine, putting an end to speculations. Russia, for the very first time, also made it clear that it will not return territories captured from Ukraine, even those outside Donbass. Which effectively means that Kharkiv and Sumy in the north, Zaporizhia, Kherson, Mykolaiv and Odessa in the south will be retained by Russia.
Have been appointed now by Russia in Berdyansk and Melitopol, and they're saying that they will hold referendum, that they're not going to go back to Ukraine.
Is
that the plan?
Utmost democracy, right? Referendum.
So we are looking at referendum.
People saying what they want.
While Russia will not return the captured territory, it has decided to hold a referendum in the new regions now under its control. It means bifurcation of Ukraine, which will lose its access to the Sea of Azov and its naval bases. Lavrov also reiterated Russia's stand that Kremlin will focus on the Eastern Front after its strategic decision to move out of Kyiv.
This operation in the east of Ukraine is aimed, as was announced from the very beginning, to fully liberate the Donetsk and Lugansk republics. And this operation will continue. It is beginning, another stage of this operation is beginning, and I'm sure this will be a very important moment of this entire special operation.
Russia has been negotiating on the future of rebel stronghold of Donetsk and Luhansk to enable it to break away from Ukraine, apart from tightening its control over Crimea. The fall of port city of Mariupol has given Russia the added advantage.
The big takeaway from Sergey Lavrov's interview, not just the fact that Russia is going to ensure the Donbass region, that is Donetsk and Luhansk, remain independent, but also captured territories that are now under Russian control could be looking at a future referendum that they might not ever return to Ukraine. Ukraine is now looking at the possibility of losing more land. In Moscow, Geeta Mohan for India Today. Time for a short break. On the other side, an exclusive conversation with Russian Senator Andrei Klimov. Stay tuned to India Today. Welcome back to World Today. In an exclusive conversation that made international headlines, Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov breathed fire at the West, NATO and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He even accused the United States of America of hypocrisy. Here are the excerpts.
Nearly 60 days of invasion and the Russian war machine is rampaging on. Now the man fronting this war, Putin's foreign minister, Sergey Lavrov, is breathing fire. Speaking exclusively to India Today and mincing no words. Lavrov blamed the West and NATO for pushing Russia to invade Ukraine.
Russia is warning all its colleagues that just on our borders you have been creating a springboard against us. You have been pumping arms into Ukraine. You have been totally ignoring the legislation of Ukraine which completely prohibited the Russian language. You have been ignoring legislation which have been encouraging neo-Nazist ideology and practices. Of course, the very latest development, because it was all linked with Ukraine becoming NATO springboard and NATO expansion. And they were saying that Ukraine will be in NATO. Nobody can stop Ukraine if it so wishes. And then President Zelensky said that he might think about coming back to possess nuclear weapons. And in November last year, my president suggested to the United States and to NATO to sit down, to cool off.
Despite warnings and threat about an impending nuclear strike on Ukraine, the Russian foreign minister told India Today that it was in fact Zelensky who first raised the nuke bogey.
Tactical nuclear weapons. Will Russia ever use them, deploy them?
Zelensky, we never mentioned about this. He mentioned this, so his intelligence must have provided him with some news. I cannot comment something which a not very adequate person pronounced.
The Russian foreign minister has denied claims of genocide, calling the Bucha massacre a staged fake news by Ukraine.
We have been targeting only military infrastructure. Unfortunately, the Ukrainian army and so-called nationalist battalions, which are using Nazi insignia, swastika, which was borrowed from Indian history but twisted the wrong way, and the insignias of Waffen-SS battalions. These people were using and continue to use civilians as a human shield. A couple of weeks ago in the place called Bucha, where the Russian troops left on the 30th of March, I think, and for 3 days the city was back in the hands of Ukrainian administration. The mayor of Bucha was publicly saying that we are back, the city is back to the normal life, and only on the 4th day they started showing images of dozens of corpses lying in the street, which was only a few days before shown as being back to normalcy.
With Russia reeling under sanctions, the country's foreign minister accused the West of hypocrisy.
This outcry started only when the Russians decided to protect Russians who are citizens of Ukraine and who were absolutely discriminated. The American military never had any scruples about achieving their military goals, be it in Syria, be it in Iraq, be it in Afghanistan for that matter. And this is a tragedy when people die. But we cannot tolerate the situation when our Western colleagues say that we can do anything we want.
With the war nearing the 2-month mark, Russia has made its intent clear. Sergey Lavrov says the special operation is at a very critical moment.
These republics, the militias of these republics are fighting to get their territory back. Because when they held referendum in 2014, it was held on the entire territories of the former regions. But then the coup leaders started the war, which they called anti-terrorist operation, and they took considerable chunk of both regions. So yes, we recognize them in their declared territories as a result of referendum.
The message from Russia is clear. It's not over yet. With Geeta Mohan in Moscow, Bureau Report, India Today.
On Spotlight this weekend, an exclusive conversation with Senator Andrew Klimov, who has some startling revelations regarding the Bucha massacre. Take a look. This is an India Today exclusive. I'm being joined by Senator Andrei Klimov, who's also the Deputy Chairman of a critical commission on international cooperation here in Russia. Many thanks for joining us here on India Today, sir. Let's begin with the special military operations, is what Russia calls it. The war is what the world sees it as. The situation on the ground is intensification in eastern Ukraine. How long do you think this is going to last? What are the red lines over here when it comes to negotiations and looking at a settlement?
We have some very concrete tasks for this military operation. And the main thing which we have to do is to fulfill this program. First of all, we are speaking about demilitarization of Ukraine. According to their previous constitution, for example. The second point is denazification, I mean liquidation all Nazi and neo-Nazi troops which are too active on the territory of Ukraine, and they are criminals according to the international law. The other thing is to protect territory of Donetsk and Lugansk republics, new states being recognized by my country, by the Russian Federation. And generally speaking, that's it. And we are looking for all our neighbors in this territory as really good neighbors for future cooperation, equal cooperation, fruitful cooperation. So my country doesn't want to have a kind of enlargement. We'd like to have good neighbors. That's it. Free from Nazism, free from military, any kind of military ambitions, including ambitions to have nuclear weapons. I just want to remind you that Mr. Zelensky, he already proclaimed his interest to have his own nuclear weapons. That's really a threat.
Is that the only threat, or also the fact that NATO in Russia's backyard is going to be a major concern? Is that one of the other reasons?
Look, of course, when we are speaking about NATO status of this territory, we first of all mind the NATO plans of enlargement. And NATO started to do that, I mean the enlargement, in 2004. They achieved the Russian borders in 2004 in some republics of Baltic states, Poland and some others. So we are speaking about process which was which started not now, but already, well, it's 18 years ago. And after that, the United States of America would like to change the rules. And after the end of the Soviet Union, they decided to have this enlargement of NATO organization, because NATO organization is under full control of Washington. This is military organization, and this is an organization which is under full control of the United States of America. And the main aim of NATO at the beginning, when it was born in 1949, was the task to storm in Russia, to storm in my country. And this is not a secret. Everything already well known. So we are strictly against enlargement of NATO organization. Having this conflict in Ukraine, I can tell you openly that for us, in our vision, this is not about Russia-Ukrainian affairs. This is about attempts of Washington to change rules dramatically and to be the only master of the house, and for them the house is the globe, our globe.
Are you going to investigate allegations of genocide and war crimes as well?
Well, we have enough evidence now, but the Russian Federation, it's country which based on the law, on the constitution, and we'd like to have open kind of tribunal to put our evidence on the table and to show everything. Events like in Bucha, this really dramatic page of this story. But we know the authors of this tragedy, and they are not from our side.
So you're saying Ukrainians did this to their own people?
Well, I don't know personally who did it, but we know for sure that it was done with the help of some well-known partners from NATO organization, especially from the United Kingdom, the United States, and we will prove that. We will show that to the world.
That is a major...
We shall open eyes of many people.
Many thanks for joining us here on India Today, sir. That is Senator Andrei Klimov speaking exclusively to India Today. That's all we have on World Today this week. Satya Rautre, my camera person, and I sign off from Moscow. Until next time, goodbye and take care.